Hi, everyone. My name is Michaela Morris. I'm the VP of Programming for AMA Phoenix. We're very excited to have you all here today, as I'm sure you jumped on and heard us all talking about types of Thanksgiving food and stuffing. Clearly, that's where everyone's mind is right now. But today, we're also really excited to bring a speaker to you all to talk about powerful storytelling with vertical video. So with us today, we have Cathedral. I said it right. So today we're going to go into the webinar. We'll have some time for some Q&A with Alex at the end, and then we'll talk about what's next for AMA Phoenix. The other thing, if you guys want to put it in the chat, as Taylor mentioned, all your questions would be great. Even if you want to chime in with if you work in-house, agency, do freelance, that might also be helpful too, just for us to know and for Alex to know as he knows who he's talking to from a marketing standpoint. But with that, I'll introduce Alex Cathedral. So Alex and I met about a year ago at a Digimarcon, a digital marketing conference, and right away we just clicked. And so I've gotten to know him over the last year, and he's incredibly talented. He is the founder of Cathedral Collective, and he's a filmmaker. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Alex, who's going to dive into the topic we have today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michaela. Thank you for that intro. You're awesome. Thanks for having me. AMA, thank you all. Thank you all for being here. And good afternoon. So excited to be doing this. Thank you again for having me. I really appreciate this. It's been a really good process for me because when I was asked to talk about vertical video, I had I thought to myself, okay, I have this structure and ways of telling story, but I haven't really got a chance to share it. And so I told Michaela too, I was like, look, okay, if I'm gonna do this, I have to be able to show that I that I know what I'm doing. So I started putting it on social media, and some really cool things started happening. But uh, just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Alex Cathedral, as Michaela said. I'm a founder of Cathedral Collective, and we're a video production company here in Glendale, Peoria area, so on the west side. And sorry, trying to figure out how to. Okay, cool. And these are the crew. This is the team. This is who makes the magic happen. Relationships are super important to me, and they're huge to me. So, give a big shout out to these artists and
I
just
did take it
good
home.
friends of mine. So yeah, so these are some of the brands that we've worked with. Um, just ranging from many different things that we've done, telling stories, founder videos, events, and things like that. So it's been a lot of fun. I've been filming since 2004. 2008, and just been doing it since then, freelancing, and then moved more um, into a LLC and a video production company. And it's been a really crazy journey. So I'll share a little bit about that. So some of my slides I didn't incorporate, but I wanted to talk about my wife real quick, so I can introduce you to myself in a way. So in 2017, I tore my ACL. And I found out right before I was about to go to Turkey to do a documentary. And I was on crutches, and my doctor was like, look, you just gotta take aspirin, and then you'll be good, just so you don't get blood clots. But I didn't know I could bend my knee or walk on it, so I was on crutches the entire time. I got back, and I couldn't bend. I needed to get surgery, but it really caused a lot of loss. I lost a lot. I lost a lot of my relationships, my friends, my business, and I moved back to my parents' house at like 27 years old. But what it did, it gave me this opportunity to write more music, and music is such a huge passion for me. And there's this line I wrote, and I can't remember it on top of my head. But it was basically like friends weren't there for me when I left. I got a lot on my chest, lifting it off like a bench press. And and so then this friend of mine reached out and was like, yo, I really relate to that. That happened to me too. I didn't realize that was the same story you had. So we ended up talking, and then a year later, she became my girlfriend. And then within that time, I tore my second ACL, and it actually forced me to see that the first time I let it destroy my life, and then the second time I was like, I'm gonna walk on it, I'm gonna bend it, I'm gonna get surgery on my terms, so that then I could rehab it to then propose to her in Rome. And then we got married in 2020 during COVID. And then a year and a half later, we had our first little guy, Asen, and this is my little boy. And yeah, he's my world. I love that guy. So, anyways, I wanted to share that part of my story because one, you get a kind of glimpse of like who I am and the way that I see story, right? Like I believe through video and then through music that I was able to meet like my wife, and not saying that people will be able to find their spouse by telling good stories and sharing their story, but that you'll be able to create meaningful and deep connection. So I just kind of want to preface that and start it off that way as we get into this. So why are we here? Engaging your audience through powerful storytelling with vertical video. So um for when filmmaking when vertical video first started coming out, as a filmmaker, I I didn't want to have anything to do with it because I was like, look, movies are not shown on a vertical screen. That's not how we watch movies. That's not how we make movies. So no, there's no way I'm doing vertical video. I'm sorry. And so I tried it so hard. Like anytime I posted anything, it was still horizontal. I made everyone, hey, turn your phone. And I still kind of do that, but not anymore. But the whole point is that, oh my gosh, sorry. Um, So the whole point of it is that I sorry, lost my train of thought. Okay, so vertical video, the whole point of it is that I was hesitant about doing it. And now um, the whole point of marketing to me is being able to meet people where they're at. And while we look at stats here, 75% of all videos plays are on mobile devices. 94% of people hold their phones vertically while browsing. So vertical videos get 90% higher completion rates than horizontal videos. Instagram Reels have seen a 220% increase year over year in time spent viewing vertical videos, and then 500 million Instagram accounts use stories daily. So, with vertical video being the most engaging format. Um, so just to set the record as we go into this is like if you're looking for trends and best ways of how to create vertical video in terms of like trendiness and stuff, and then also statistics and analytics. People are built differently, and I'm personally like built more in a creative way where I take these stats and I tell stories in order to help make those stats come alive. And so I've also realized that in storytelling, the stats are the things that, right? Facts tell and stories sell. And I realized that the facts are also a way for me to give language to the stories. And so I can say one thing and believe that's true, and then look at the facts to support it. And that's been like a huge game changer. So I just want to set that straight. We're gonna move into this and be talking about vertical video and marketing in a way of how do we meet people where they're at? Because I'm very people focused, I'm very relationship focused. And so that's my lens. That's how I do marketing. That's how I do anything. So again, with marketing in vertical video, and to me, it's always going to be about how do we meet people where they're at. And the switch that I was able to make from horizontal video to vertical video, no matter how much I hated it as an artist, it actually put me into a specific boundary and made me create differently in order to meet the people that I care about where they're at, in order to hear the message that I feel like was important. And also for the brands that we were working with, what was important for their end listener or their ideal client to be able to hear, and the relationships they want to build. So, moving towards vertical video was always going to be about meeting people where they're at, and everything that we do is always going to be that. So, just a question to add to this as you as we go through this is like, how do you meet yourself where you're at? Because it's not always just going to be about how do we meet people where they're at. It's going to be about how do you meet yourself where you're at, and because the better that you can meet yourself where you're at, the better you're gonna be able to meet other people where they're at. So my approach and our approach with Cathedral Collective and even with vertical video specifically is through documentary style. And we'll go into that a little bit more in depth as we go into it of what that looks like and what does documentary style mean. Um, but these, I just want to show a few things that we've done. So Love Like Pearls is a documentary that we did in 2016, I believe. Um, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was about my parents' love story, how they both immigrated from the Philippines, and then how they met, and then just interviewed a lot of my family members, my aunts, my uncles, and this was for the 30th wedding anniversary. So we ended up surprising them, and we had all our family from LA, and all came here. My mom still fits in her dress, and she wore her dress, and then my dad brought a suit that's similar to what he was wearing on his wedding day, and we had a whole ceremony, did a whole renewal of vows. Then afterwards, we showed the documentary. And then we filmed that portion and then added that portion into it. Um, and seeing documentaries becoming something that was like progressive, but something that I learned from that specific project is how hard it is to ask questions and how vulnerable it is to ask questions to the people that you care about. It's one thing to interview like strangers and people that you don't know or that are becoming acquaintances because you're getting to know them. But for family, you have to learn how to be sensitive and then also figure out how to draw out these deep things that they feel uncomfortable about telling you. Because as Filipino American, my parents they don't really open up freely. But as soon as we got into it and kind of continued to do it over time, they started to open up. They got used to the cameras, and I started filmmaking because of my dad and my grandfather. I mean, they always had a camera around. We'll get into that a little bit more, but that was a huge project for me. That was our first documentary my brother and I ever did together, which is a catalyst for a lot of other things that we did. Um, and then Back to Work was a documentary during COVID. My whole family got it. My mom was a nurse and just kind of addressing what it's like for nurses and yeah, to what they were was going on with them, but then also was going on with their families to kind of highlight that because we got it early on in 2020, and it was like kind of like a pretty scary time. Um, and then the other one is Just to Cook, and all of these we've been able to put into film festivals and has shaped a lot of how we then move into using documentary style into the way that we tell vertical video and how we tell stories, and then also how we bring that into business. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about with documentary style and why I think that is important is because and where I believe marketing is shifting to, that I think that the consumer, I think that people are ready for, that the market is ready for, but I'm not really positive. I'm still trying to figure out how businesses are prepared to be able to invest into those kind of things. But I believe it's the future. And here are some stats from like how documentaries have changed like over the decade, or actually 20 years. Um, it's been crazy to see like documentaries used to be this really like boring genre that people didn't like to watch, to now being a place where, oh my goodness, like streaming platforms like Netflix and Hulu, they made documentaries accessible globally. So by 2021, documentaries became the second most popular genre on streaming platforms. I mean, that's massive. It's a huge change, a huge shift in the way that we are engaging with documentaries and the way that we're engaging with certain type of content. But to me, the way that we watch films translates to the way that we consume content and what interests us. And later on, we'll talk about how that translates actually with social media and the stats that come with that. So you can look through these slides. It's just because video has become also more accessible to filmmakers and has made it easier for people to create more documentaries. But a lot of this is more to show you the ways that documentaries have shifted culture, even. So for example, box office successes in 1990, Hoop Dreams did $11.8 million. And then in the 2000s, the blockbuster Fahrenheit 9/11 did $222 million. I mean, it's crazy. And obviously, like public TV, had limited reach, but since streaming and cable networks expanded globally, it's shifted everything. Yeah, like cultural influence in 1990s, the niche appeal with works like the Civil War, and then 2000s like broad impact with doc sparking public discourse and policy changes. um there's the film Super Size Me. There's so many things that like documentaries do that bring awareness and help us shift the way that we think and the way that we see things, that move us into actually changing the way that we live. And I think that the way that I see it is that if we can figure out how to do that and do that in a way for businesses, I think that shifts everything and changes everything. So the past like 5 years is that's what I've been trying to figure out and trying to and do with the businesses that we've been working with. So, with that being said, there's been a huge demand for raw and real content, and I think with social media, everyone like we talk about this, right? Like it's so oversaturated. There's so many people doing so many things and doing so many of this of similar things. Like, how do we separate ourselves? And you never know who really has this and who really has that, and everything feels fabricated. But the things that really that we like are the things that we see people like authentically who they are, and the things that go viral are the things that are human and that we can relate to and laugh at, and we can put ourselves in those places. So my hope through it all, and especially with documentary, for ourselves as marketers, as filmmakers, as artists, and things like that, is how do you be present to where your feet are? And um, because what I believe with documentary style, it lends to creativity of the moment. So what I mean by that is, um, documentary can sometimes feel just like filmmaking or filming in general, or creating content can feel scary and can kind of feel overwhelming. And it's like a lot, like, how do I find the right strategies, and how do I draw out the specific thing out of somebody else or even myself? But what I love what documentary style does is that it takes the pressure off of you to know everything, right? So when it documentary style lending to the creativity of the moment is that if you can learn to be aware and be present to where your feet are, then the more you learn how to do that in your personal life, then when you're filming and you're with businesses and you're with clients and with other people, you learn how to be present where they're at, and then you learn to see what to capture, what is important to you, and then what's important to them. And it doesn't like the beauty about documentary is that it's not always about how beautiful the shots are. It's about how beautiful and how impactful the story is. And so the way that I hope to share through this is like for anyone getting into uh filming and creating content, is in this documentary style. It's more important to figure out how to be present and then use your camera to capture that. And so it's not just about, I think it's important to know your settings. It's important to know those things, but it's most important to be present to the people that are there. Um, and so with that, the we have a pillar system that we've created to tell stories, and how we create our documentaries, and how we create our founder videos and documentary storytelling for businesses and brand stories. That's vulnerability. So it's value, vulnerability, authenticity, loyalty, understanding, and empathy. And then, understanding and uniqueness, empathy, entertainment. You got to try to add as much as you can to these things. But okay. So let's go into vulnerability. What does that look like? So in a practical sense, right? Vulnerability is kind of like this vague word. But the way that we do be able to create spaces for vulnerability is pre-interviews. So something that we found is when we were filming these documentaries or even these founder videos, we would start filming, we had the lights and the cameras, and people started getting really intimidated, right? That's normal. So it took time for like the story to come out. And so what we've been doing now is we've been doing podcasts prior, and this is kind of like part of the strategy portion is okay, how do we do it in a long format way? Okay, so we're gonna sit down with them, we're gonna do a pre-interview, and like, hey, if we're gonna hear your story anyways, let's create content out of it. And so we sit with them, we ask them questions, and it's more disarming. We get to sometimes it takes an hour and a half, 2 hours, but it gets them to a place that they're used to talking about their story. Then, and prior to this, we talk on the phone. I do Zoom calls and do the whole Fathom thing and record the conversation and make sure that it's recorded and everything, so we can start structuring the story in some way. Then from there, we get into person. Know that the first day is always going to be just getting them used to the camera. Um, One of the documentaries that we were doing, founder video, we got 6 days into filming, and um, afterwards, the founder was like, "Yeah, this has been a really great experience." And to think about it, it's like really crazy that I almost sold the business. And I was like, "Wait, what?" And in the interviews, he never shared that portion at all. And so the reason why documentary style to me is really important because it's the conversations that happen off camera that are important as well. And that's kind of being part of present into the moment. And so we then shaped his whole entire founder video around selling his business because it was such a huge part of it that I can't believe we missed. And so that's one way to create vulnerability is the pre-interviews. Another way that we do this in a practical sense is filming at home, um, because we're inviting strangers, right, into our most vulnerable place that typically nobody would be in or be there. And so that's one way that we do that is they feel comfortable where they're at. We're coming in into their space. And so we become the vulnerable ones, and we have to figure out how to work around what they have, and be sensitive to everything around that, which then makes them feel comfortable and allows them to feel more engaged. And then their family is around and things like that. Um, and so yeah, multiple day shoots and things like that. So, anyways, that's a little bit about like vulnerability. Another pillar is authenticity. So again, the authenticity part in a practical sense is filming it in a documentary style. So it's not staged, right? It's not scripted. Um we sit there with them. They have dinner. Sometimes they feed us. Most times they feed us, and then we get to like sit with them and hear the stories at the table. We go to the park with them. We do their daily life with them, and in those things, other stuff starts coming out, and different sides of them start um, um, yeah, becoming like their personalities start coming out in different ways. So those are some ways that we really practice authenticity. So if we can do those two things, right, cause like bring out the vulnerability and then allow them to be more authentic, then it leads to loyalty. And so, right, like people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So with loyalty, it doesn't matter if like they've been in this business specifically for like 10 years or if they've been in their business for 3 years or if they just started. It doesn't matter. And I think people, when we talk about this, they're like, oh, But I just started this business. And I was like, well, how long have you been pursuing this, like trying to solve this problem or like serving in this kind of way? And they'll date back to, well, it first started like 20 years ago when X, Y, and Z. And well, there it is, right? Like your loyalty to your business has may not been around for less than like 3 months, but your loyalty to your cause and what you believe in has been there for 20 years. And that's the part that we want to draw out and show. And that will come through like the vulnerability and the authenticity part, right? Is like we want to be able to draw out that story, help them identify it, and then show the hardships and how they overcame it. And I think that's another big part of documentary style is that as they're talking, most people like uh they don't I would even say for myself, like don't really know what parts of our stories are valuable, right? Like it's like, oh, I don't really have a story. It's not really that important. Um, it's not really different than anybody else's. But like that's like the one thing that makes us different than any other business or any other thing that is there is that is it's our story, right? So that's what we really try to focus on. So if we can show loyalty, then we can show that they understand what they've been doing it. They've been doing this for so long. So part of what that looks like in a practical sense is showing behind the scenes of like their process and their workflow. And so our goal in this way is to be able to show all the details, the care and the thoughtfulness that like no one else sees. Um, like how they communicate their work culture and stuff like that. Because what separates you from your competition, right, is your story, as we talked about earlier. Um, and then lastly, it's empathy and entertainment, right? It's long format. Like anything that we've done is any like in this kind of way is anything from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. So it has to be engaging, right? It still has to be entertaining. But if we can accomplish the four other pillars, excuse me, vulnerability, authenticity, loyalty, and understanding, and show their uniqueness in that, um, it will lend to whoever's watching to feel more empathetic towards the journey, into the struggle, and into the story. And it humanizes like the business owner. It humanizes, the brand. So and right, like the reason why we emphasize this and the empathy piece is that our pain and our struggles are the great equalizer. It's the thing that makes us um similar and the thing that we all can relate to. Um, and so something that's really important to me, like even with the crew, I always tell them, and people that we bring on, like I always want to make sure that they've shared their story in any type of capacity in any type of way. So, um, like one of the guys like vlogged a lot of their stuff. Some of them are musicians where they sing about and or write about their own stories, um, or they've focused on some of their own family stories, or they've taken the time to write scripts and write short films that no matter what, that's influencing like taking the time to figure out what they're thinking and going through. And so, because my belief is that um if we can't hold sacred or care for our own, we don't know how to do that for others, right? And so I always encourage people to take the time to tell their own stories. I don't think these videos are going to show, but these are kind of clips of me doing music, and then how that's then also translated to the way that I tell stories in documentary and the things that I see, the things that I reflect on. And the clip on the right is me and my older brother and clips of us dancing during the documentary of Love Like Pearls. Um, but yeah, so why why choose this approach? Um, Everyone is looking for a place to belong, and the goal, right, is once we start sharing our own stories, we help people find where they belong. And our hope is that through telling stories and through doing this in marketing is like the big goal, right? Like the hope is as more founders and as more business owners tell their stories and where they came from, it allows for other people who are looking for work and looking for meaningful brands to be a part of and be connected to. It allows them to watch these films and watch these stories, watch these processes and be like, oh my goodness, like that reminds me of X, Y, and Z, of my story, of my dad, of my grandpa, or that's the values I share. And then allows them to then apply and be a part of companies that they care about. And so for both the founder and the business owner, and then also for the team, um, you're both creating a space. Like, what would that look like for businesses to have people that believe from the get-go, of where they belong, And I think if we can create a sense of belonging, in the workplace, I think that could change a lot of of how we live. Um, because you will find people that will be with you for a lifetime. And like I said, like I can't tell you that you're gonna find your spouse, but you'll find people that will rock with you, and be with you throughout the duration of your business, and hopefully past that. So our mission, right, is to build and enrich and maintain human connection. Our goal in marketing is, instead of just reaching out, it's about like reaching deep. And as Cathedral Collective, our hope is to bring humanity back to business. That's a lot of our ethos, and why relationship and documentary style is so important to us. So now, how is this like bringing it all together? How does this work? So in the beginning, we talked about documentaries and how they shifted and how they changed. And over the course of 5 years, Um, I've been trying to figure out ways to do this in a way for brands that are sustainable, that are also accessible, um, and also trying to encourage businesses to take this approach, and that uh, this is the way that I believe is the way of the future. And so there's some statistics that's been pretty wild over the past decade, of the way social media has changed their video upload limits. Um, so the regular videos capped at 15 for YouTube, capped at 15 minutes for unverified accounts, and no YouTube Shorts existed. And now verified accounts can upload videos up to 12 hours, and Shorts introduced in 2021 with a 60-second limit expanded to 3 minutes by 2024. That was super recent. So. And also another thing that I found and I heard recently that I thought was huge is that YouTube is going to be able to they're creating a place on our profiles that you can have series now, where it's going to almost be like episodics. And part of what we really want to encourage other people to do is like create mini documentary series, for your business. And the numbers here, like TikTok, 2016, the limit, like it was musically right. It was limited to 15 seconds, and now it's expanded to 60 seconds, and then 3 minutes, and now it's up to 10 minutes, right? Like these formats that used to be short form are now increasing their limits. So, the same way that I believe documentaries, it just didn't have the same accessibility. At one point, it's interesting that the golden era was just like 10, like 5 6 years ago of documentaries, and there was like a boom and an increase. It's now interesting to see how it's coming into social media and how we're consuming. So the social media platforms are changing with the way that we are, and like the way that we're consuming things. And so to me, this is a huge signifier that where things are headed, right? um um, yeah, like on X, 30-second limit is now 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Anyways, there's so much that is happening. Snapchat, it's allowing for more creative storytelling, and it's just allowing for more in-depth, deep content. So this is what the future looks like to me. Um, is the vertical video is a means of being able to meet people where they're at, and is a way to be able to tell our stories in a creative way, and being able to switch it up, right? Short form is still always going to be important, but long form is is the now, and the way that documentary style shapes the way that I think and the way that we think is when creating strategies, right? What I would encourage, like for tips wise, right? Like one of the lessons we learned is when creating content, I've been encouraging a lot of the businesses that we've been working with. Look, why founder videos to me are very important is because you do this 30-minute story, and from this 30-minute story, you cut that into small portions, and then from those small portions, you almost like test the waters with your social media, right? And all platforms and say, okay, what is sticking here? What is sticking there? Or how are your audience relating to it? And then when you see what they're relating to, go back to that one portion of that story and then dive deeper into that. You can then take that and go long format again into that. So um, one story. What time is it? Okay. How much time do I have?
We end at the top of the hour, so we do have a couple questions that came in. So you
Okay.
have at least like 10 minutes or so.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. All right, it'll be short, and I want to get into questions because those are really what's more important to me. Um, but so we did a founder video, and it was for a outsourcing company, and uh, we told their whole story, and he went and he was, working with a company in the East Coast, and they were doing an expansion. That company actually built an outsourcing team in Mexico. They had 30 people, and the company that we were doing it for, their team was in the Philippines, and the big company that was doing the expansion was trying to choose between Mexico or the Philippines, between these two companies. And he went over there, he did his thing, right? He had to still do his part. And after having lunch and dinner with them, 5 hours later, he got on the plane and he said, "Hey, here's our founder video if you want to hear more about what we do." So, um, 17 minutes later, he gets a text, and the client says, "Wow, I was in tears, and I can't believe that uh, this is your story. I can tell that you really like believe in what you're doing, and I believe you deserve this. So I want to give you the expansion." That company went from uh, $10,000 a month to $80,000 a month in 2 months, and then in a year or less, they're over six figures a month with them. Um, but that was only like that's like one part. That took 7 months to see those kind of results, right? So to kind of go back a little bit, the goal was two things. One, can you bring loyalty to the team, and can it separate you from your competition, right? The first thing right away was when they posted the video, the team in the Philippines, their management team, had no idea that they were going to sell the company, had no idea that that the struggles that he had, because none of them were affected by it. He kept on going. No one lost their jobs. And so instantly everyone was like, "Oh my goodness, like I'm here for life. I can't believe it. Like, thank you for keep on like continuing to go on." And then 7 months later, we saw like the ROI, right? And a video in general is really hard to find. This has like been the struggle, right? Is like, how do you convince businesses that like this is the right, like this is the ROI specifically that you're gonna get? And that's what I've been always been focusing on. And that's like there's nothing wrong with that. That's great. That's huge. It's important because that's how businesses thrive. Um, but what I also recognized when I asked him, this founder, to give us a testimonial, the thing that he kept on talking about was not the money. And I was like, "Hey, can you mention this?" But what he kept on talking about was how his kids at first, they were kind of interested and kind of worked, and but they weren't sure if they were going to take on the business after that whole process with them. We interviewed them as well. He kept on talking about, he mentioned it 3 or 4 times, that his kids now, like, they're closer than ever. They want to take over the business. They want to work in the business more. And for him as a founder and as like a business that wants to be generational, like that was huge. That was everything. And so the results that come from this are the intangibles. There's so many other things that come from it. And then even from there, we can talk more about results later and asking questions. But for me, I realized it was like engagement, right? As I posted, I started seeing um more of my story. I started putting like more behind the scenes, and more people were talking about, oh my goodness, like I didn't know this what it took, and like I want to see more of this. And that to me, like, and then we gained more followers, and it was like it's been a really encouraging thing to see, like, okay, when we put ourselves out there and we put ourselves in the same positions that we're asking other people to do, if we can meet people where they're at because we've met ourselves where we're at, like people are drawn to it. So uh, yeah. Um, we can go into questions, but if you want to reach out to me, I'm totally open. Would love to connect. Again, I'm a relationship person, and so I would love to answer any questions. This is the Gram, LinkedIn, our website. You can see some of our work, and the things that we've done. And then yeah, I just wanted to say a big thanks to Michaela, Ryan, Taylor, and all of you at AMA. I appreciate y'all. Excited for the questions. Thanks.
Excellent. Well, thank you so very much. One question that came through is, what is your recommended length for these vertical videos? Obviously, the different platforms can vary on how long they could be and whether it's, a story versus, a reel. And so what is your recommended length?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Um, is the person on?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay.
especially documentary
Mm,
style
yeah.
for business, because we all know that everybody has the attention span of a goldfish. So, but people do like documentary style. We all find ourselves watching it for sure. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So this is my recommendation that I say to, like, if you're trying to encourage like a business, or if I'm telling a business, I say do long format, always aim for long format. Um and so I would go anywhere from like 5, 10, 15 minutes, or even 30 minutes. So some of the stuff that we're shooting are like 30 minutes long, 45 minutes long. And then what we do is we condense all that content down to anywhere from like 60 seconds to 90 seconds, right? So that like those, like, because still people want that short, they do have a shorter attention span, even though that is growing. Um, the idea is that if you can do long format, then you have multiple pieces of content, right? Take 4 hours to shoot for 2 hours or an hour, and then from there build out your strategy, right? Like, um, but I think if you want to do shorter format, I think yeah, 60 to 90 seconds. But um, I guess like if you're doing a documentary style, right? I think it's more so about how you're doing those 60 and 90 seconds versus like how long that it is. I don't know if that makes sense.
yes. And, the question was posted. And then later you said you can take it and do 60-second clips and 30-second clips. So that, half answered the question, but I think that's a good strategy. Go long and then break it up and use it for many pieces of content.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah.
So along those same lines, of having long form, perhaps, horizontal like video, what is your suggestion of like recording for horizontal versus recording for vertical? I know I always tell people you should always record horizontally because you can typically take that 4K footage and make it vertical. Can't really do the opposite. What's your take on that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I would say the exact same thing. Um, is to always like film. I don't want to say always. I would recommend to primarily film horizontally, and then make sure that all your settings are in 4K so that you can punch in, and then also make sure that you're shooting wide, and then keep the whatever subject is being filmed center so that you can always keep them in the center. But if there are multiple people, um, sometimes I will start vertical so I can see what the framing is. And then even if you put like the grid lines up, you can see where they would fit on your phone or on your camera and stuff. But I think going horizontal is always the way to go.
So
I
yes,
don't
look
want to
at
say
Wes
always, but
Anderson's style of setting up a frame. Wes Anderson's style will help you be successful in horizontal and video, vertical video. So we have a question here about LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been doing a lot of updates and has really been catering also to the vertical video. How have you found it be beneficial for LinkedIn, for businesses to leverage that type of aspect ratio?
yeah, absolutely. Oh man. So I'll be honest, right? Like I don't know. Um the the reason why I preface in the beginning, um and why I focus, like our company focuses primarily on the storytelling piece, is because um trends and things, like when I look at the stats and I take the time to look at those things, I'm like, oh my goodness, it changes so much. And so for us to keep up with that, um we're not a marketing like company, but what I do know is that if the stories are done right, and done in this specific way that we believe in, that no matter what platform, and that's kind of the thing that I didn't touch on, is the future to me is why I think meeting people where they're at is really important, is because vertical video is a thing now, but man, like VR, holograms. I mean, the future, like we have no idea what that's gonna look like, but what will remain the same is like the more and more we get into AI, the more and more we get into social stuff and technology, the more and more we're gonna, like, as people, are gonna desire human connection, and human story. So that's why when we talk and I talk about these things, it's focused on marketing is about me meeting people where they're at, and then telling stories is the best way, and through a vulnerable and authentic way. So for LinkedIn specifically, um, I'm really good friends with some uh, marketing LinkedIn pros. I can connect you or get some information and stuff there. But personally, I don't. That's still a space I'm trying to figure out. Sorry. Hopefully that helps.
All good. Yeah, LinkedIn's definitely the B2B place for platforms. And so I think just like everything, as things are getting more mobile views, they're just going to cater to what's going to look best on mobile. What does mobile want to see? And so what do you prefer to post on? Like, what is your favorite platform and one that you've maybe found the most benefit from posting to?
Yeah, it's a good question. I right now I focus on Instagram. Um, there's just so much to do and figure out that my main focus right now is on Instagram. Um, and so that's where I've been experimenting with and seeing where businesses and how they interact with each other, because there's some interesting B2B stuff happening there as well. But it's usually like the founders that are in this space and not necessarily the business itself too. So I don't know. I think it's that's where I'm at. That's why yeah. Was there another part of that question? I think I forgot the
You're
rest of that
good.
was.
So
Okay.
continuing on with like this video creation, we're going to take our horizontal video and edit it down to a vertical, but what platform or what editing software would you recommend? Are
Mm.
you a part of the Adobe suite? Are you DaVinci? Do you like CapCut with the automated, recommendation of the vertical edit?
Oh man, that's a good question. All of them. All of them. I'm a big Da Vinci guy. I was a Premiere person for like all my life. Started iMovie and then Adobe Premiere. But Da Vinci's changed my life. It's just so easy. Um, but what's been interesting lately, what I've been doing, my workflow has been, I'll edit on DaVinci because I'm really fast in it and I can color really quickly on there. And I can keep the format into vertical quickly. And then what I do is I export that in 4K and then I put it on my phone and I put it into CapCut and then I do the auto caption generation and then I'll post it and then I'll export and post from there. But then also I'll film a lot of stuff on my phone too. I do a lot of like behind the scenes and I'll stack stuff. So I'll stack three videos on top of each other that are horizontal. So that's another reason why filming horizontal is still good, is because what we do is we film horizontal. We put the horizontal 1, 2, 3. We stack them on top so you can still see everything. And then I do that in DaVinci, and then I move to CapCut. And then phone stuff I'll do on CapCut because it's just so quick. So yeah, I think depending on what it is, but that's kind of my workflow. They're both, I mean, they're awesome.
Yeah, the vertical stack has definitely been a very popular style where basically if you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's literally like two video angles or two things happening at the same time stacked one on top of each other. It just allows the viewer to see so much more happening, especially if one of the stacks is perhaps just a talking head. It's a great easy way to make your talking head look a little more interesting. Excellent. Any other
Yes.
questions? Feel free, we have a fairly small group, so unmute yourself, raise your hand. Let me know if
Yeah.
there's any other questions.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to thank Alex because it was really great information.
Thanks, Holly. I appreciate that. Thanks for being here.
Alex,
That
I've
was,
been working with a lot of brand and founders a lot lately. Like, what's one of your favorite projects you've been working on lately doing vertical video with?
um, there's this organic juice shop I've been working with a lot, Westies, and it's been a lot of fun because the founder is really creative too, and so we're doing uh a lot of fun, like fast-paced video stuff on the phones, and then also like on the cameras. But we're also creating a series, like a YouTube series, where they're like showing how to cut certain things and why they cut certain things. And for him, it's like, this is the way we do it. This is how we do it. And there's so much story behind it. So then when we get to just put all the cameras on, we have like three angles, and he just gets to go. We then get to explore that even deeper. And then later on, we've been able to, uh, yeah, go into it more in depth. So yeah, I think that's like the most enjoyable one right now. I've been having a lot of fun with that one.
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
especially to take something as simple as juice that, to those of us marketers who are like, how can we sell juice? It's like, well, that's a deeper way to definitely do it. So, well, thank you, Alex, so much. And thank you, Taylor, for hosting. I have a few housekeeping items to roll through for AMA. So coming up, I do want to invite all of you guys to Mingle Bells, which is our annual holiday party. We host it with several other organizations in town who are marketing associations. And so it's a great way to network. We also, the proceeds are going to go to support a local nonprofit called Sleep in Heavenly Peace. So you're able to make sure that you're giving back, but also a great way to network and meet other marketing professionals. And that'll be in person at Tombstone Brewery in Phoenix on Tuesday, December 3rd starting at 5:30 p.m. So we hope to see all of you there. We also are looking for sponsorships, raffle prizes. So if you or your company is wanting to donate or support in any way, please feel free to contact me. We'd love to have you there. Our next webinar will be on Tuesday, January 21st, and it's going to be on ChatGPT versus cloud. So talking about which LLM or large language model is better for marketers. So Arvo Craig is going to speak and kind of talk about that. And as we know, as marketers, AI is changing all the time. There are so many new updates that are coming. And so just to learn about which LLM to use in our workflows is really helpful. Yes. More, we hope to see you at Mingle Bells. We'll make sure to include some information in the follow-up email, but would love to see you all there. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out.
Do we have to RSVP to that?
Yes. Yes, we have an Eventbrite link, or not an Eventbrite link. I think Phoenix Ad Club is the one that's doing, but you can just put here with AMA. It's $18 for members and $28 for non-members for Mingle Bells.
And if you're a member, that we do have a code, and it's on our website. So you'll see the code there. So make sure you put that in there.
Yes. I also want to share that we are currently conducting our 2024 annual survey for AMA Phoenix. So this is a great way. We want to hear from you. As we're building out our programming content for next year, we want to make sure that we're featuring content that is relevant, that is helpful to you. And so one of the best ways that we can do that is by getting, your feedback. And so even just knowing, what times are the best times to meet, learning that kind of stuff too. So if you have the chance, whether you're a part of AMA or you're not, we would love to hear from you. So feel free to scan the QR code and take our annual survey. We'll also be promoting it online in the next couple of weeks as well. And then volunteer. If you feel like you would love to get more involved with AMA Phoenix, we do have a couple open roles on our board right now. We have the vice president for DEI and for the collegiate that are both available. And so feel free to scan the QR code if you want to learn more about what it looks like to volunteer and to join the board. We also, I do want to highlight, we do have an open job board on AMA Phoenix. So if you are either looking for talent or if you're looking for your next role, we always have those available. So feel free to continue to keep tabs on that as well. And then if you're not a member, would obviously love for you guys to join AMA Phoenix as a member. There are lots of perks that come with it, including online trainings, certifications. We're trying to include more networking events and stuff like that, just like Mingle Bells that we have coming up. So we'd love for you guys to join as members if you're not already. And, because we don't have enough QR codes, one more. So again, we love your feedback in the annual survey. We'll be sharing that over the next couple weeks. But we also would love your feedback specifically on Alex's webinar too. So, it's great feedback for us as we're continuing to create content going forward. It's great feedback for Alex as he's continuing to, promote, the work that he does. So if you have some time and are willing, we'll send an email follow up as well, but would love your feedback so we can continue to curate the best content for you guys. And I believe with that is all that we have today. And so I know Alex shared his contact information. Feel free to connect with him on LinkedIn or Instagram, and would love to continue to keep you guys involved. But thank you all so much. Thank you, Alex, for leading today. And thank you, Taylor, for hosting our webinar today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for hosting.
Thank
Thank
you
you all for
all.
coming.